Good day, everybody. My name is Zach Pasquarello, and I'm making this video because I want to teach you how to start your own bookkeeping business. I started my bookkeeping business 4 years ago. Everything I talk about is truthfully based on my own experience. I'm doing something new this year. I just wrote out a schedule, and this is exciting. I'm going to be making 50 videos over the next 50 weeks, and I strategically sorted and ordered these videos so that I would basically teach you kind of from start to finish how to start your own bookkeeping business. So stay tuned, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be putting out a new video every week for the next 50 weeks. I already have it mapped out how to start and grow your own bookkeeping business. This video is all about how to land your first bookkeeping client. I'm going to talk about stuff like networking, how to make a good pitch, and then also using referrals to build credibility. So let's just jump right into it. I'm going to get started. Let's talk about networking. Networking strategies that actually work. First, let me give you some tips. So if you are trying to get your name out there, promote your new business, increase the likelihood of landing new clients, forget about networking events for a second. Let's just talk about your regular life, everyday life, going to the grocery store, going to the gym, dropping your kids off at school, and then going to church, going to your kids' sporting events. These are all networking opportunities. Anytime you meet with somebody, anytime you talk with somebody, it's a networking opportunity. So I'm not even talking specifically networking events. While those are great, you're going to be in networking situations every single day in your regular life. And these are incredible opportunities. There's a couple tips that might work. First, look presentable. That kind of goes without saying. You don't want to be wearing your pajamas at the grocery store trying to pitch your bookkeeping business. Now, I'm not suggesting wear a dress or a suit and tie every single day, but it definitely helps to increase your legitimacy if you look halfway put together. So look decent when you go out into public. And then strike up a conversation with total strangers. Don't be a weirdo. Don't try to push your bookkeeping business from the start of the conversation, but allow it to come up naturally. And if you're really introverted, this is going to be harder than it is for other people. But unfortunately, starting a business is really hard. So you're going to have to do things that might make you a little bit uncomfortable. But I promise you, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So if you strike up a conversation with a stranger, you start chit-chatting, how are you? I'm good, how are you? You ask a couple questions, and then eventually you're going to get to, so what do you do for a living? And anytime anybody asks you that, no matter what, even if you are a nurse right now, or an engineer, or a warehouse worker, or a truck driver, whatever you are right now, if you're trying to start a bookkeeping business, just tell them, oh, I have a bookkeeping business. Like, who cares what you do right now? Who cares what your full-time job is? Who cares what your college education is? Who cares if this is your very first video and you're just now thinking about starting a bookkeeping business? Just tell people like, oh, I actually just started a bookkeeping business. And let that be a great way for you to just very naturally network, get your name out there, tell a total stranger. You never know who you're talking to. You never know if you're talking to a business owner who's desperate for a new bookkeeper. So, and you never know, that person might not be a business owner, but that person might actually know another business owner who might need help with their bookkeeping. So make a great first impression, look put together, ask them questions, be polite, be positive, be professional. Like I always recommend, don't be a weirdo. Don't try to push your services too hard. Don't try to sell people in the first 5 seconds. But if it comes up naturally, tell them that you just started a bookkeeping business. I'm a bookkeeper. I do bookkeeping for business owners. I'm a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I help people with their taxes. I help business owners with their QuickBooks and their taxes. Tell people in real life. And then go above and beyond that. Not only going to networking events, not only just randomly meeting people at the grocery store, but also just getting involved in your community is a great way to meet new people. Wherever you spend your time, volunteer at church, volunteer to coach your son's t-ball team, volunteer at the local homeless shelter. Just like getting yourself out there in society increases your chances of meeting new people, building relationships, and that just increases your chances of getting a bookkeeping client just naturally. This is not going to be a get rich quick scheme. Networking takes a long time, but it can be super powerful. Because if you, let's just say, for example, you meet 4 new people in the next week, and those 4 people all know, let's just say 10 people. So if you make a really good impression on those 4 people, make a lasting impression, tell them about your bookkeeping business, maybe give them a business card, maybe tell them about your website, the likelihood that those 4 people might potentially tell their 10 friends, all of a sudden, instead of just interacting with 4 people, now all of a sudden you have potentially exposed yourself to 40 people. And so you can just see how that number just continues to exponentially increase. So like I was saying, not just going to networking events, not just randomly meeting people at the grocery store, but also just volunteering in your community is a really great way to meet new people. And then finally, let's talk about actually going to networking events. So in a couple of my other videos, I've talked about you don't need to, and you definitely don't. I understand some people are introverted. Some people don't like to leave their house. Some people are super busy. Maybe you have a full-time job and you've got 6 kids and you've got a spouse and you've got 10 pets and you just have so much going on that you can't leave the house. That's also fine. So I do kind of want to throw that in there. Like networking strategies, networking is great. But if you don't have time or if it really makes you uncomfortable, you don't have to do it. This is just an extra tool in your toolbox. This is just an extra way that you can successfully get your first client. So if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. But if you do decide to go to a networking event, here's a couple strategies. So if you just go and let's just say like you spent a lot of time, you bought a new outfit, you got a fresh haircut, you put some makeup on, you got a new fancy watch, you got new shoes, you're looking good, you feel good, you go to the networking event, but you just sit there in the corner and you don't talk to anybody because you're nervous or you're scared or you're intimidated or whatever. You're missing the whole point. You're missing the whole point. If you go to these networking events, you have to actually interact with people. That's the hard part. It's honestly really scary, especially with your first one. But I promise you, it gets easier. Just have that first conversation, shake somebody's hands. And if you're really nervous, if you don't know what to say, the good news is you can just ask them a bunch of questions. People love talking about themselves. So if you are shy and bashful and intimidated, if you don't feel like talking, you don't have to. Let them do the talking. Just make a really good impression. Give them your business card. You get their business card. Follow up with them afterwards. Like, hey, John, it was really nice meeting you at the investor meetup last night. If you ever have questions about your bookkeeping, here's my number. I'd be so happy to chat and answer any questions and help you along the way. So it's not enough to just show up. You have to actually perform. You have to actually meet people, shake people's hands, exchange business cards. Keep in mind, everybody at these networking events are all there for the same reason. They're all there to meet other people and to potentially get business. So don't be afraid, don't be intimidated, but if you are, just ask them a lot of questions. And then just keep in mind, it will get easier in the future. Okay, point number 2, how to craft a winning pitch. So this all takes practice. And there are several different ways that you can pitch your bookkeeping services. You can do it through a social media DM. You can do it on the phone. You can do it in real life. So let's start with the easiest, social media DM or an email. This is super simple. I have a really simple message, and I'm not necessarily saying that I'm a sales expert or a marketing guru. This is just what I do. Take it or leave it. I message people on Facebook and I say, hey, I'm a bookkeeper. Let me know if you ever need help with your QuickBooks. Thanks. Another option is, hey, I'm trying to grow my bookkeeping business. If you know anybody who might need help with their QuickBooks or their bookkeeping, I would really appreciate an introduction so that I might be able to help them. Thanks so much. So the first one, short and sweet, to the point, very basic. And the reason I love that short and sweet message is because financial services are all about trust. We're not promoting gimmicks. We're not trying to trick people. We're not trying to scam people. I'm sure you've all been a victim of this. Somebody messages you and says, hey, Zach, looks like you're crushing it. I would love to grab coffee sometime and talk about your business goals. I hate that so much. Like, obviously, they're just trying to build a relationship with you so that they can sell you in 30 days, which is, I respect the hustle. Like that's fine if that's how you want to do it. But for me, I would much rather just be straightforward and to the point, because financial services are all about trust. We are offering a very legitimate service, no gimmicks. Everybody needs a bookkeeper, straight up. Hey, I'm a bookkeeper. Let me know if you need help with your QuickBooks. My other recommendation, if you're sending a DM on social media, wait 30 days. Don't just DM them as soon as they accept your friend request, because if you follow along in my other videos, I'll talk about my marketing strategy. So I recommend create content every day and engage with your community. And so give your marketing strategy a chance to work. Wait 30 days before you actually send a DM to people on Facebook. Okay, so now let's say you're on the phone and you're calling somebody. The great thing about a phone call is you could literally write out your script word for word. Now, of course, when you say it, you want to make sure that you're not speaking like a robot and it's not obvious that you're reading a script, but don't be afraid to write out a script. Use ChatGPT to help you create an outline, and then have your sales script literally printed out and taped onto your desk or pinned to your wall. That way, in case somebody calls you right away, and if you're brand new, then you can just grab that piece of paper and go through your notes. It's really pretty straightforward, and it gets easier every time. The first couple times you're gonna fumble through the conversation, but after a couple conversations, you're gonna nail it. And then something else you can do, if you have a planned conversation, you can record yourself. Record yourself to see, how am I speaking? How am I flowing? Am I giving them an opportunity to talk? Am I talking too much? Am I talking too little? Record yourself so that you can review your sales calls. And then finally, if somebody asks you a question and you don't know the answer, figure out the answer. It's okay. It's going to happen. Figure out the answer. And then the good news is that forever in the future, if anybody ever asks you that question ever again, you already know. You already know the answer. So after a couple weeks, a couple months of sending messages on Facebook, having phone calls, going to networking groups, going to networking events, talking about your business, people are going to ask you questions. You're not going to know the answer. You're going to go home. You're going to research. You're going to come up with an answer. And then forever in the future, you're always going to have an answer. So over the next couple months, people might ask you 5 or 10 questions you don't know the answer to, but all of a sudden, you're going to know the answer. And so in 2 months, there will be no question anybody could ask you that you don't have the answer to. So that's the beauty of just giving this time. Be patient. Do your best. Be honest. Improve every day. Sooner or later, sooner rather than later, you will have the confidence to be able to do this, and you will have all the answers to all the questions. Now, going in person, crafting a winning pitch for in person. This is really, really hard. And I'm not even good at this because it's really hard. It's one thing to send a message on Facebook. It's another thing to have a phone conversation, but to actually talk to people in real life and to pitch them your services is really, really hard. And that requires a whole different level of sales expertise that I don't even have. So if you're looking to become a really good salesperson in real life, then you might need to do some of your own research. I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, I'm not a good salesperson in real life. The one thing I do is I'm just authentic. I just try to be myself. So that would be probably my biggest piece of advice. If you're trying to learn how to pitch your services in real life, just be authentic, genuine, trustworthy. Try to be as likable as you can. And that might be tough if you're not naturally a bubbly person, outgoing person, extroverted person. That might be tough, but just be yourself, because at the end of the day, you're going to be the best at being yourself. So just try to be yourself. If you're trying to craft a winning pitch in person, it's really, really hard. Ask people questions, figure out how you can solve their problems, and just be yourself. Okay, point number 3 on tips for landing your first bookkeeping client fast. And then let me just say, I totally forgot to mention this. I've got a ton of links in the description of this video. I've got a course. So I am going to be making these videos every single week for the next 50 weeks. I'm going to go through the whole process of starting a bookkeeping business. If you can't wait for these next 50 weeks, if you want to jump into it right now, I have a whole course for sale. It's on my website. Check out the link in the description of this video. I also have weekly calls, weekly meetings with a group of other bookkeepers. There's like 40 of us, and we meet every Monday at 3 p.m. for an hour. And it's an accountability group, a support group, a live Q&A. It's amazing. A lot of people are in the group. A lot of people ask questions. A lot of people have benefited. So you could also sign up for that course. It's not a course. It's a weekly meeting. You can sign up for that weekly meeting in the link in the description of this video. I also have a Facebook group. You can join the Facebook group. It's totally free. And I also have a store with a ton of digital downloads. I have a client agreement template. I have a bookkeeping workflow template. I have Excel profit and loss templates. I have a 30-day social media marketing strategy guide, all on my website. Some are free, some cost money. Check it out. Last thing I'll say about my course, it does cost money. If you don't want to pay for my course, you don't have to. You can totally start a bookkeeping business without spending any money. So don't feel pressure. Don't buy my course if you don't want to spend money. But if you're the kind of person who has $1,000 and you just want to quickly buy the course and fast track to success, might be a good idea. Invest in the course. Okay, last point here, using referrals to build credibility. It all starts with your online presence. It all starts with having a good website and having a Google My Business profile. You want to get reviews on your Google My Business profile as fast as possible. And I understand it's tough if you're brand new and don't have any clients, but here are 2 examples of how I got my first 2 Google reviews. One of my family members has a business, and I talked him through how to file his 1099s. I didn't even do it for him. I just talked him through the process. I helped him with his 1099s. And then I asked him for a Google review. Totally honest, totally legit. He gave me a Google review like, hey, Zach Pasquarello with Harrisburg Bookkeeping was super helpful. He helped me with my 1099s, which is honest. And so that's an amazing way. Just help somebody in your family, one of your friends. Another person was a friend from high school, and I helped him with his personal finances. I helped him with some budgeting and investing stuff unofficially. As a friend, I helped him with his personal finances, and then I asked him for a review, and he gave me an honest review. I would never recommend that you try to get anybody to falsify Google reviews for you. If I was just starting my bookkeeping business, I would not ask a fellow entrepreneur to give me a 5-star review saying how I helped them file their taxes and clean up 3 years of bookkeeping. Because if that didn't happen, then that would be lying. I'm never recommending that you lie. But helping a family member with their 1099s, helping a friend with his personal finances, you can get character reviews. Zach Pasquarello at Harrisburg Bookkeeping, full of integrity, honest, hardworking entrepreneur. I highly recommend other people work with Zach Pasquarello at Harrisburg Bookkeeping. That's an honest review that somebody could leave you even if they're not your bookkeeping client. So use referrals, because I can't tell you how many times people go to my website, go to Google, and they call me and they say, man, you have more 5-star reviews than anybody in the area. So I just figured I'd call you. Google reviews really help a lot. And then last thing is word of mouth referrals are the only way that marketing can grow exponentially. If you're doing cold calls, you are bound by the number of cold calls you make in that day. If you create social media marketing content, you are confined to the number of views you get on your post. Like, you can only get so many views on your single post, and then it goes away. And what's the other way? With paid ads, you can only give so much money to paid ads until you can't fund them anymore. You're limited to how much money you have. You're limited to how many views you get. You're limited to how many calls you can make. But with word of mouth referrals, the number of people who you could potentially reach increases exponentially. Because like I said in the beginning, if you make a lasting impression with 4 people, those 4 people know 10 people. Make it 40. If you make a lasting impression with 40 people and those 40 people all know 100 people, all of a sudden you have just tapped into a network of 4,000 people, because 40 people know 100 people. And so 40 times 100 is 4,000. So just by positively impacting 40 people, you could potentially reach 4,000 people. That there is no other form of marketing that'll be exponential like getting word of mouth referrals. So just to recap here, networking strategies, a lot of great tips, a lot of ways that you can network in your local community to grow your bookkeeping business. Having a good winning pitch, having a good sales pitch is really going to make a difference. And then finally, those word of mouth referrals is a great way for you to build credibility, build legitimacy, and ultimately get your first bookkeeping client.